Welcome back to class. I have a special guest with me today. This is Shauna. And I invited her because I wanted to show some of the therapeutics that you can do using yoga techniques to help relieve some of the tension and stress in the upper back and neck. And hopefully, by doing these and maybe practicing a few simple techniques, you can learn to get a little deeper into some of your poses. We're going to focus on back bends, and I'm going to start with really gentle stuff today and work our way up. I asked Shauna, I said, can you do a full back bend? And she said, well, sometimes we'll see. And I love that attitude because that's really a perfect approach to class, is to say, today we're going to see where my body is, and I'm going to work accordingly. So let's just begin. And we put our mats at a little bit of an angle, so I'm going to turn this way so that you can perhaps get a better visual. And just take a nice seat as we turn within. And of course, focusing on lengthening the breath and setting up communication lines with the inner body. What is your body telling you? And what is it asking for, I guess, is the deepest question we are asking on our journey of discovery. The theme for the class today is tendencies and finding balance. Think of a fulcrum, just visualize a fulcrum in your mind, maybe a teeter-totter type of a fulcrum. And you're at one end, and there's a force at the other end, whether it be another person or weights or just the pressure of life. And there should be a nice balance where you move back and forth through that point of effort where you rise up and surrender, where you just allow gravity to kind of pull you back down. But if there are too many pressures or weights on the other end, it becomes a little harder for you to rise up or to sink down, rather. And you just wind up in a constant tipping point of not being able to get your feet back down on the ground. And the problem is this becomes almost exponential, because as you're not able to just settle, surrender, and ground, those stressors on the other end become even more heavy and even more heavy. And at some point, the tipping point gets so exacerbated that you're just stuck in this stressful position, the fight or flight mode. And it just begins to burn your adrenals down. It triggers stress hormones to where you start putting on body weight. It upsets the whole ecosystem of the body, the endocrine system. So we don't want that to happen, and it's the reason that we practice yoga. It's the reason that we focus on that even breath. Think of it as that beautiful balancing point, always rising equally to lowering and surrendering and grounding. When you sit at a desk or anywhere or stand in improper alignment for very long, or you just developed some unhealthy movement patterns, this is really going to add to the other side of the fulcrum. It's really going to exacerbate that tipping point issue, because you can never really get back to homeostasis if your body is constantly fighting or struggling because of misalignment. Continue to lengthen your breath. You should feel with every exhalation your body just sinking or settling or grounding. With every inhalation, Get a sense of that rising up. And then back again through the exhalation, grounding and rooting very deeply. Now, after the next exhalation, just release your breath back to normal. Press the palms together at the heart. Take the thumbs to the sternum and fan the fingers out. Lift the elbows and the forearms just slightly so that you're from the waistline lifting all the way up through the heart and even the arms are floating up. There's a buoyancy to the heart, to the shoulder girdle, and then bow the head to the heart. Take a moment to just set your intention today for discovery, discovering those little misalignments or movement patterns that are holding you back from moving to the next level. And as always, opening to grace. Now lower the hands, lift the chin, open the eyes. We're just going to come on to all fours here. Here are mats. And Shauna remembers always how to place her hands. Let's start here with a nice finger stretch. I kind of stopped here because I'm needing that today. And then lightly put the heel of the hands down. So I'm trying to keep the weight in the ridge or root of the knuckles. Now as I curl my toes under, I'm just going to sit back. Get a nice toe stretch. Check your neck tension. And this just feels so good. You know, one of the tendencies here, and Shauna loves this, so she's a good model for this, is to drop here. We're going to do some real switch. Yeah, it's to kind of drop here because sometimes that feels good. But the head of the arm bone drops down here. She's ticklish. I'll try not to. So now, when she lifts her arm up like that, her hands actually ground down a little more. So just play with that a moment. When you drop your shoulders, you lose the connection or the grounding or the weight through the hands. When you lift the head of the arm bone, look at that even pressure. You can get an even line of energy and groundedness through the hands. And that's what we want to do, is really learn to stay grounded in the poses. I'm even going to move my knees back now, get a deeper toe stretch. This is really achy on the big toe, I know, but we need it. Now, I'm keeping my underarms really lifted and trying to get an arch in my back, a slope in my back. I'm mounding the glutes, and then I'm going to lift up into crouching cat, take my feet wide, and breathe. Deep squat. And now exhale through the left or right, whichever one you want, to paddle down. And then the other. Switch again a couple more times. Sometimes it's easier to get one down at a time, and then both. And then we're just going to drop back down to the knees, back into table pose. I'm going to flatten my feet, knees and feet together, and just come back up. Just kind of let that drain out. You can shake your hands, shake your arms. Just feel the tension kind of rolling off. It's a good stretch. Now, bring it back forward. Call this crouching kitten. Crouching cat. to downward facing dog. Take a step forward. Keep the weight through the knuckle roots. They'll come up all the way to the roots of the ridges of the knuckles. This is a pretty good hamstring stretch. It's okay to bend your knees. Take another step forward. Come to the fingertips. And imagine that you have those round balls under your hands. Keep all of the knuckles rounded, not hyperextended like that. And then take another step forward. Bring your hands up onto your knees, lightly, and arch the back. Open. Engage all of the spinal muscles that are going to suck that spine in. There should be a trench. You can even reach back and see if you have a trench. And then float the arms up and sit way back. Really engage from the top of the waist all the way up the back. And then slowly come up.
Let's just take a moment to break down what it means when we say to place your shoulder blades on the back for back bends. Slowly take the arms straight out. Round them forward, shoulder blades off the back, and then shoulder blades on the back. Beautiful. And then do it again. Off the back, and then on the back. Gorgeous. Now, let's try something a little more challenging. Take your time and be aware. Standing with your feet rooted firmly, extend up toward the sky, opening the heart with wild abandonment. Stay rooted and don't push the hips forward. And then extend up and bring your hands back to the heart. Try it again. Root down to rise up. Extend up gloriously, extending the heart and the spine. And then bend back without pushing the hips forward or clenching the buttocks. Now this time, extend up, come forward in a reverse swan dive. Look at that beautiful arch. Touch the floor or the knees. Bend the knees if you need to. Gorgeous. Awesome. It's very important here that you keep the spine extended. Now, come on up, grip with the feet, arch the back, don't round it, and bring the hands back down in Namaste. You should feel nice and warm with no pain in your back. Now, try this tip for safer hamstring stretches.
If you float your elbows out like this, the tendency to round your upper back will lessen. If you keep your elbows in, see how my upper back can round? But if I take my elbows out, I can get a flatter back to close. Now inhale, come forward, and you're going to step back into a lunge. Left foot back will be in a right foot lunge. Bring the hands on the inside, keeping the feet super strong and gripping. Take your elbow to your inner shin and stick your hip out. That opens the hip. Now you're going to flatten the left hand. Step back into a plank, flatten the right hand. Come down, knees, chest, chin. So you have that little ski slope going on. And then just come to your belly. You're going to come to Sphinx pose. So from here, I'm going to push my knees down and think about that even trench all the way up the back. And I'm even going to think about lengthening the front of the body, pulling the lower belly in, pulling the upper ribs in, and lengthening. And that's already going to give me a nice stretch. And it engages at the core and makes traction in my spine. I'm pushing my knees down, not my pubis bone. That just clenches butt muscles, and that's not good. So now I'm going to straighten my arms and lift. And, you know, Shauna is doing this hopefully because she wants to, not because the teacher said to do that. And if that doesn't feel good, you just come back down. But I have to really think about making traction in my low back because I've had issues there. Now, elbows down. Place the hands beside the chest. And you're just going to come back to crouching kitten. Crouching cat. The reason I go into down dog this way so methodically is so that you don't get this down dog, which is what I see so often. That's one of the tendencies. Now, into down dog, extending the spine, keeping that beautiful, curvaceous nature of it. Loosen the head, oscillate the neck and head. Now, come up onto the tiptoes. Keep the pressure through the knuckle ridges. Raise the right leg up. And then sweep it forward. Right fingertips, right foot comes forward. Back into a right lunge. And I'm going to back up a bit so I don't disappear. Come up into water pump. Close the pose. Grip the floor. Cock the bow. Float the arms up. You're in chair pose. And then slowly come up, standing back down. And just as you've extended as high on your end of the teeter-totter as possible, then you allow it to come sweetly down as you root into the earth. Right? But we just did one side of a sun salutation. Release, lift the heart. Engage the core by drawing from deep down into your roots, beneath the floor. Inhale up, cock the bow. Baby back bend. Move forward. Uttanasana, forward bend. Inhale half up. Now step back with the left foot to a lunge. And you want the back heel straight up, not going toward the floor. You want that achy, achy toe stretch, the full bend in the toes, just like we were doing with the fingers earlier. Come to the inside and open this hip out to the left. This hip opener, come back, right hand down, left foot comes back, slide it into a plank, knees, chest, chin, and then come up into your Sphinx pose or your Cobra, remembering to inner spiral your legs. Dig the knees in, maybe so much your butt comes up this high. And then engage and really pull the bow. So that you're pulling an evenly distributed vertebral column from the base of the spine all the way up. Nice space in the discs and really using the musculature to do that. Now, crouching kitten, Crouching cat. Down dog. Up onto the tiptoes. Sweep the left leg up. Come up onto the left fingertips. So you can bring the left foot forward. Water pump. And close the pose. And this time I'm going to have you come wide into a squat. So knees over ankles and push the knees apart without uprooting the down with the big toe. To see how deep you can go. Then you're going to inner spiral the upper inner thighs, lift and separate the sits bones, push through the heels and pull them apart. That creates an inner spiral, isometric action here, and then just release. Nice hamstring stretch, a little different. And take your elbows out. Let your head dangle free. Now, you're going to sit back into a chair. This is a wide chair. Come up onto the tiptoes. Heels lifted. And just slowly come up. This is a balancing pose. Really strengthens the feet. Come up high. Take the heels down. And then close the pose. Woo. Play a little bit. We're going to come down to sitting. And I have a couple of props here. So what I'm going to do, Shauna's gained a lot of flexibility with her yoga practice. So she can take a large roll, but I've taken my blanket and opened it out like this, started at the fringe end, and made a roll. And this may be where you begin. But I know she's got it in her, and we're warmed up. So we're going to try here. You think you can do that? So I'm going to have you stop right there. And when she lays down, she's going to want this blanket to hit right here. That's the bottom edge of the shoulder blades. Can you put your hand behind your back? This one. You can see the tip of her shoulder blades here. And so, yeah, that's one. So obviously the blanket needs to hit right in here in order to engage them on the back. So if you lift your head and your heart and think about pulling them in, you see that action, that work she's having to do, yeah. But for now, the blanket's going to do that for her. It's just going to let her sit there and surrender for a while. She kind of finds it. And notice that she kept the arch as she went back. She didn't roll down. And another advantage is that by putting her arms in this position, it helps to roll the shoulders back. And this is just probably the best medicine that anyone can do, because when you think about it, the center of the shoulder is the center of the wheel, which has 360-degree rotation, right? So if we sit like this today, or all day, and the shoulder is forward, and then we do this, and pull that shoulder clear back here, that level of degree is probably 30 degrees, when you say, in a 360. So think of how healing that is. You know, that's probably the only part of the body you could actually move that many degrees without injuring yourself you know, but this is where, if you look at little kids, this is where their hearts live. They're beautifully open, and they have this arch in the back, and their arms hang clear down here. And so this just recreates that shape. This, you're going to feel this stretch not only in your pectoral muscles, but probably through the arms. And you're certainly going to feel this in the back. But she's smiling, so I know it feels good. And you can, if you want, pause this video and do that for as long as you want. But we're going to move on and use another prop. And this is where I sometimes use my vacuum cleaner belts that I mentioned in class 1, where you can just hook your thumbs around them. I'm going to give Shauna just one of these belts. And I think that this will be a really easy level for her. This will give her some really good width. And she can probably do it without a belt, but I'm going to give you some tips. Whenever you're doing a stretch, like a clasp behind your back, you don't want your wrists to do that. That is really stressful on them. That's another thing I see a lot of. Why not just hook your thumbs in? And so when you're stretching, you can keep your wrists straight and not put stress on them. Because a shoulder stretch should be in the shoulders, not in the wrists. So, you got it? So now I'm just going to have her walk her feet in and lift her hips up. Just enough so I can relieve her of this. But when she comes back down, when she puts her butt back down, notice that she just keeps the memory of that beautiful shape that the blanket gave her. And you can see she's got just a lovely arch in her back. So now I'm going to take her up into a bridge pose, or I'm not going to, she's going to do all the work. And, but I'm going to have you come down first. This is actually kind of a nice way to do a bridge pose because it really puts all of the weight on the shoulder blades in the cross. But to make it a really good shoulder stretch, I'm going to have her put her hands down here. And before she even goes up, in order to make sure that she's getting just as much rise in her heart area as her hips, she's going to really pump that up. Think of that big roll. Yeah, and look at how she's, I love this, she's tucking the outer arms in. Do that again. She tucks the outer arms under, that puts the shoulder blades, you can feel them now really engaged and flat on the back. And look at how open her heart is. And this is the direction of energy. Think of, this is Sektubandha. It's not really a bridge. They just call it bridge. Sektubandha is a paddy where in the rice paddies, when they irrigate them, the water comes in and it puffs them up. So think of it coming in like that and puffing you up and open evenly. So now she's ready because we know that low back is going to bend much more readily than the upper back. So she's primed the pump again. So now when she comes up, she doesn't try to push her hips so much up, and you can lock your feet in even a little more, and get more hip, more lift from there toward the face. Yes, beautiful. Now you can use that, and you can take your clasp deeper. When she gets the clasp, she can really, really tuck that under. Look at that. Now she gets even more lift from here. She's up on her tiptoes. I love that. Open your throat just a bit. Yes, nice. That is so good for your neck because she's returning the curve to her neck, and that's what you want. I can set up our little Christmas train under her neck. Now, go ahead and try to lower your heels. Keep breathing. She's doing really good. And her fingers are touching her heels, so she's in a good, deep bow. And then, when she's ready to exhale, she can release her butt down, and she can keep a grip on that belt or not. But she keeps that arch in her back. I kind of like to just hold on to the belt there, right? That's good. And she's still smiling, so, and that's something that I like to watch in my students, because if I see a grimace, I know they're just over-efforting, And that's a good way to stack weight on the other side of the teeter-totter. It just is harder to come back out of it. You want effort, but you also want an even amount of surrender. And when you come out of bridge pose, do you love that surge of energy? You know, that bridge pose isn't so fun to do. It's hard. But when you come out of it, it is absolutely heavenly. It's like this high. So, yeah, so ready? And it's a natural one. So, ready? Come on up. And she's all pumped, so she doesn't even need, which you may need. See if she can go even higher on her tiptoes. From way up, walk your tiptoes in, and really, and you can see where this, and just keep your throat really soft. Yeah, you can see where this could easily lead to a shoulder stand. All she'd have to do is release her belt, place her hands under her hips, and kick her feet up. But we're not doing that today, so maybe she'll come back and do that. So come on down. Beautiful. And I'll take your belt now. So she's got a nice, good, we did some standing back bends, some great spinal extension and twists. We did cobras and went pretty deep into those. And by just observing her down dog, her movement patterns, the openness that she's got now in bridge pose, I really feel like she could do a full, she's anticipating what I'm saying, a full back bend. But, you know, just because your yoga teacher thinks that you can do something, that doesn't mean that you have to do it. You may not be in the mood for it today. So if she's game, I'm going to have you center yourself until you feel exactly in the middle of the mat, because this will really help. I think you need to come this way just a little more, especially your shoulders and your head. Yes, yes, yes. And she would have known that by the next move. So she's going to put her hands right beside her head, and she's going to find the edge of her mat with her pinky fingers. Right there. And I like to find the very edge with just a little finger pad, right? And see how that really positions her shoulders. But the misnomer is to go closer. You want to come clear back here. No. So I love this. Her elbows are right over her wrists, and the heels of her hands are down. If the heels of your hands don't go down here, you may not be ready. I'm also seeing, no, move this one back. Nope, toward the, yeah, towards your, yeah. Now they're even. So the next thing, and I know this kind of gets tiring, but it's nice if you have somebody watching you. The next thing I want to see is, are the head of the arm bones deeply engaged into the socket? And hers are. And that just means that she's wrapping those shoulder blades onto the back. If the armpit comes and disengages, then she's not ready for a back bend. Just like when we did down dog, we didn't want to sink. When you do a back bend, you want your head of your arm bone here, and the stretch should come. Now, are you ready, or do you want to relax your arms a minute before you come up to your head? Okay, so she's going to curl back like she does in a cobra, almost like she's looking for her feet. She's just going to come to her head for now. There. And she's going to plug the head of the arm bones in, and she's going to move her head more toward her feet, almost like she's trying to put her forehead on the floor. Yes. Roll. Curl your forehead toward the floor. Yes. Now take your chest toward the camera. Yes. Oh, yes, like that. Now I'm going to have you come back down, lift your head up, come to the back of your head, and just come back down and relax your arms, because we had her there for a long time. And I see a little bit of a grimace. That's okay. That's all right to be challenged, but I don't want her to push up when she's already, you know, when you're already at your edge, it's not always safe to move on. But when she's ready, how did that feel? Yeah. And it's all upper back and wrist stuff at this point, isn't it? Because you haven't pushed fully up, you're not going to feel that hit in the low back yet, which is what we never want to feel, but it's the most typical. So another tendency in this pose is for the feet to turn out. And that's typical for a back bend pose. Feet are parallel, and the tendency is for the feet to turn out as soon as you push up, or the knees to come out of alignment. You want to really grip the floor with those feet, and you want to keep that true foundation. Now she places her hands, and she's going to really prime the pump by opening her heart. And these fingers turn out. Just imagine that magnet. There we go. Plug the head of the arm bones in. Yes. Curl back. Come to the top of the head. Yes. Now you're going to push all the way up, and yes. And right here is where the lift is. And she kind of keeps curling back like that. And she kind of pulses through here. Now she's going to lower back down, top of her head, in the back of her head. That is an intense pose, and it is one that really activates the sympathetic nervous system because, it gets your heart rate going, right? It's not one to do before bed. Now, one thing that you can do is, if your hands don't go flat, you would need to put these blocks up against a wall. There would be a wall here. So I'm going to be a wall. Actually, go kind of, she's going to get her head in between them. And then she's going to put her hands like this, right? Right now, notice when she comes to the top of her head, her hands will go to the block. Just to the top of your head. And this is a really good way to train yourself to set your shoulders for back hit. And then, you can, if you want, you can try to come up that way. Yeah, see how much more open, and she can get a good pulse. Squeezing this together, take your chest toward me. Woo. Yeah, and then slowly come down. That's even more of a lift, but it's better on the wrists. So it's something that you can try. Just relax. Woo. Now, the best way to clear yourself from back bends is through some lengthening traction, like downward dog, and some gentle twists. So if I can coax her, I think she was feeling really comfortable with it. So let's just end the class, and of course we always want to do a few hip openers. So let's take the feet forward, pull the sits bones back and apart. If you need to elevate yourself on a blanket, please do. You would fold a blanket and lift yourself onto the edge. So here's my imaginary belt. She's got the actual belt. You feel the tension that allows you to pull the spine muscles in. And then you can just keep coming forward. And if you say, that's it, my hamstrings say they won't go any more, than just fine. Now, come on back up. You're going to take your right leg over your left. You've got a block. I've got a block. So we're going to put the block just under the outer edge of the foot so I can karate chop into this. You don't need it, but I just want you to see that if I was doing this, it would encourage that hyperextension, and I have that tendency, and I don't want to encourage it. So I push into the block instead, and I'm using my feet, and again, I'm coming forward now, I'm getting a hip stretch. You. Then I'm going to remove the block and cross the slate over a little more deeply and sit up nice and tall. Come forward, back to the hamstring stretch. Is to fold this leg. And then let's just do a nice shoulder stretch. Take the arms and cross the right arm over the left, let's see, left arm over the right. And grab the shoulder blades and just take the head and drop it down. Lift the arms and the heart, but drop it in. Then double cross to the Gomukhasana arms, Garudasana arms. I just take them up and down. Now pull that left arm to the right and just gaze forward, stretching the trapezius muscles. And back, and unfurl the arms. Unwrap the leg. Both legs straight again. And just reposition the sits bones. Re-inner spiral the legs. Now, other side. Again, you can use your belt here if it helps you to create that dynamic tension in the back, that dynamic resistance that pulls the bowstring that makes the spine come in. Come up. Move your block. This is one-legged Gomukhasana, so it's Ekapada. One-legged Ekapada. And then when you come forward, it's Ekapada Paschimottanasana. Well, Ekapada Gomukha because it's the cow face pose. So Ekapada Gomukha Paschimottanasana. I know. It's just as much fun to do as it is to say. And then full Gomukhasana, full cow face. So I think we've done this before. This is a little cow face, and these are the horns. But we like to add the eagle arms to it. So now this time the right arm goes on top. Grab the shoulders, lift the heart. And double wrap the arms. That would remind me of a moment. And then come up and double wrap the arms and just move them up and down. And then float them up. Back down. And unwind the legs. Then we're just going to scoot forward. And you come down to your forearms. And lower the upper back. Turn the palms up. And let's just do a side twist here. Cross right knee over left. And just twist all the way to the right. You can extend the arms up if you want, or out. That. Switch. Just to the other side. Back. Just the windshield wipers. Feet as wide as the mat. So again, I gotta put myself centered on the mat. Drop the knees over to the right. A little extra room. Put your foot up on top. It's not required. On top if you want. Now you're just going to take the legs straight. You can stay there and sit up. Control. As you let your eyes merge together, your teeth and your lips seal, let your teeth float apart when your tongue relax away from your mouth. And now begin the journey inward as you allow your breath to become more shallow. Feel free to take as much time in Shavasana as you would like.